The gentleman from California, Mr. Garamendi, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Monti, thank you so very much for the exceptional work that your team has accomplished on the Sutter Basin. I see my colleague, Mr. Malafa, here, and he and I get to share this 39-mile section of the Feather River. I would draw the attention of the committee to the map on the back of Mr. Monti's testimony. And if you'll notice, 90% of this project has been completed without any federal money, a project that started in 2014. We have 5 miles remaining, and we need a new start. Mr. Dalton, we've talked to you about this. General Jackson, we've talked to you about it, and I intend to continue talking about this until we do get a new start, or maybe we'll just get ourselves something called an earmark and we can get things done quickly. That would be very convenient. I would point out that this project, thus far, 90% of it, 100% local funding. This is innovative financing to the fullest extent. The remaining 5 miles, we need about a new start and about 49 million federal dollars, 25 million local dollars. So we ought to get this thing finished because we have another 22,000 people at risk. And if it's a really big flood, it may get to 100,000. Mr. Monti, thank you so very much for your work on this. If you had a new start in this fiscal year, when would you be able to complete this project?
Well, this would be a core project. We believe it could be completed within 2 federal fiscal years by 2019.
One and done, all of it within 5 years?
We believe, we're not the experts on this, but we believe this is a great candidate for a one-and-done project, yes.
Great, thank you very much. I want to now turn to the disaster supplemental and bring the attention of the full committee to the disaster supplemental. It is this is the third supplemental. This is a $10 billion Corps of Engineers program in the disaster supplemental. We've just heard what local people are willing to do, at least in California, and I suspect in other parts of the nation. However, the disaster supplemental has a very special opportunity for certain parts of the nation. The bill, as presented, waives cost-sharing requirements for ongoing Corps projects, ongoing Corps studies, and new Corps studies and ongoing construction projects. That's $10 billion with no local participation. We just heard about a local participation in California, which will be 90% local. What does this mean to other projects around the nation? I'm quite sure that Puerto Rico probably could not provide any local, but I'm quite sure that Houston, Texas could. But the bill does not require any local participation. The question that I'm concerned about is, what does this mean for the rest of the Corps projects? So this is a question to General Jackson. If we appropriate the $10 billion for the Corps projects in hurricane-impacted areas, can you explain to me what this impact will have on the Corps' fiscal 2019 budget? I think all of us ought to be curious about this. So do you have any indication what it would mean as you prepare for the 2019 proposal?
Specifically, I would say, Congressman, that the projects that we are able to align supplemental dollars against to repair that might be in the FY19 budget would therefore not need the funding that was previously contemplated for them in FY19, and we can then use those funds for other projects that were not designated for funding in FY19. So, you know, in my mind, any additional obligation, any additional authority or funding that we get from the Congress to address Corps projects just means that we can then address significantly more projects that are out there with the extra funding that's provided.
So you anticipate that this supplemental additional $10 billion for the Corps of Engineers where there will be no local participation, funding participation, will have no impact on the normal and ongoing Corps of Engineers request for funding from the Congress.
Congressman, I would say that it wouldn't have any negative impact whatsoever. All it does is it allows us to address current needs that were impacted by the storm, and then it allows whatever funding we would get under our budget authority to be able to apply that against other projects that didn't qualify for the supplemental appropriation.
Very good, and may I remind you that we're looking for a new start to complete a $689 million Corps authorized project and get it done within 2 years, 5 years, start to finish. So let me just remind you, we're looking for a new start.
Acknowledge all, sir.
Thank you. I'll yield back.
Thank you. Go to the gentleman from